Greetings everyone, here's Lodrik and this is the game War in the Pacific Advanced Edition. And this is my new play by email. This time I choose Allied side against Deaniks. And he's the Japanese player. So this is the first time I play the Allied side. So I don't really have the experience, but I know the game well. Played too many times the Japanese, so I want to try something else. This is still RA scenario, so scenario 50. And more or less, I guess you can say the same like I play against Azu. So if you want to see the same scenario, other players or similar players, you can see my play as Japan against Azurop, or Azurop is allied against Sagun. And now in this case, it's Deaniks, the Japanese, and for me the allies. So this is scenario December 7th, the opening. And we have the standard house rules, I would say, what we use always. And the Japanese player is free to attack where he wants if it's roughly 15 hexes away from a Japanese base. He don't must attack Pearl Harbor, but he chooses to attack Pearl Harbor. And for the Allied, it's more or less like I can move everything in China, but only in China, and I can move every task force or do whatever I want with the task force on the map, but I cannot create new task forces out of ships who was in port before. Good, so we have here airstrike on Pearl Harbor. And this costs a lot of time, so I simply skip it now. You can see there are some flag damage against zeros. And there will be some casualties, but my air force on Pearl Harbor gets heavily damaged. Also a bunch of hits on the battleship grow, but overall I would say not really a strong strike against the Navy, but maybe an airstrike against the airfield. Swam sweep over Singapore. And I have only some buffaloes, but I was not allowed to touch here the Air Force, so this is the standard setup of the scenario. So I really can only control more or less my... this is more or less a reaction turn. The Japanese can do it they first one all what they want, and I have to endure this. Important is what the Japanese player is doing out of this first surprise strike, and how quickly the Allies can maybe recover from it. Good. Georgetown, sweep. That looks for me so far all common. Also here a Navy bombardment, I guess, on port of Manila to cripple the submarine fleet. Some AP and tankers going down directly, and one submarine also, but so far only one submarine sunk outright. A bunch of other ships are damaged or heavily damaged. This is also an airstrike against the airfield of Singapore, damaging all my good aircraft on the ground. Clark Field airfield attack. Not much I can do here. You can see a lot of damage. More incoming airstrikes. And a strong airstrike against Hong Kong air base. But I think also the Navy base. That is not so much my style. I don't really see a need for this, but of course, if you want, you can damage and cripple here the fleet. I only stand down my destroyer here in Hong Kong to simply try to avoid this, but it was the wrong choice. So. So my 2 weak British destroyers at Hong Kong are already dead. Or damaged, at least to a point where I think you cannot use them. Good, strafing zeros. And my P-26 tried to intercept but was not able. But again, I cannot change this. And there's also a smaller submarine fleet at Cebu port. So because this is not scenario 1, this is scenario 50, so the setup is a little different. Navies coming. I can at least slow them down. But yeah, one more hit on my submarine. And here is, I think, the rest of key to Butai. In this scenario, you have more or less like 3 main carrier fleets, each always 2 fleet carriers plus 1 support carrier. So 3 carrier, 1 group. And 2 carrier groups were striking Pearl Harbor, so in total still 6 carriers, but only 4 fleet carriers plus 2 support carriers. And this is carrier group number 3, and they're going for Manila. So crippling the base here. So 1 U-boat, a PT, other PT, more PT, other submarine, short range submarine, short fleet submarine, the next fleet submarine, 1 more submarine. But I would still say that is all what you must do if you want to have a good start. Using Jakes for airstrikes, maybe. Kota Buru, yeah. More strafing. Here's some Blenheims. Hong Kong again. And airfield attack on Changsha. Yeah, there are also aircraft here at Changsha. And Lonely Buffalo trying to intercept the Sallies, but no way. Kuantan. Normally the next step after Kota Buru is going for Kuantan, or you try to take them both at the same time. We will see. These are still only the airstrikes, so I only know where's the enemy carrier fleet now. And some more ships going down. And here we can see the invasion of the Philippines. That is the northern part. Luzon. That is a little more traditional setup, I would call it. Or at least not very aggressive.
and also Kuantan
Kutaburu landing, Singora landing, that is also more classic and not aggressive. And some Dutch bombers trying to attack the enemy fleet, and but this is the original setup. It's at 15,000, so nearly impossible to hit anything out of this altitude. 6,000 is maybe better, but still high. Most important is I get a feeling where is the enemy fleet and what they have. So they don't have cap. They have battleships, Nagato Mutsu. And I know they're going, it looks like for Kuantan or Mersing, both is still possible. But because all the carriers are at east of Manila or at Pearl Harbor, looks like there's no direct air cover for this invasion fleet. What is a little risky, I would say. Good, more ships going down, some are good, some are just so. The landing force, I have no chance or choice here to accept this simply. Strong attack here at Mindanao, I would say. That is a little shift of focus from north of the Philippines maybe here to south. But it's also the scenario give you the opportunity that there are more Japanese ships and troops at Palau Islands. The northern end of Luzon, I always ignore it because it's for me too far away from any important base, but if you want to play it a little more classic way, of course you go this way. Good, now the land attack. In China I was able to, or allowed to move anything what I want, air and ground forces or navy, Chinese navy. But I cannot change what is its beginning, simply ongoing. So I can also see that there's roughly 2 regiments against the Filipinos. Yeah, I cannot do much. Here also 2 regiments attacking, and the bombardments and all of this simply lower my forces. And this is, I think, a glitch, or what do I say, desync, because later in the combat report this attack was successful. And yeah, to explain this is not the 353 attacking here. There's only a paratrooper attack. You can see here this paratrooper assault division. They're dropping and attacking here. All the rest is only standing in the base, but they are not attacking. So only, I think, maybe 30 attack power. And out of the calculation, it's normally 10 to 9. So, but yeah. This can happen if you just have this kind of long turns with a lot of action. Sometimes the game goes the wrong way and then the calculation is somewhere off. And especially at the beginning, at the first turn, I had this normally very often, that some battles are simply not what you can see on the Allied side or the Japanese side. They're not exactly the same, but yeah. Anyway. Good, so this was a turn. I would say it's 90% classic and 10% maybe modification. Good, now I must load the other turn. One moment. Good, so now we are in the after action. So there, of course, the first turn is always a lot of action, but I would say First, let's check maybe the intelligence report. So, air war was 77 to 60, is okay. Japan lost a lot of zeros, Bettys, Kates, so all kind of stuff. You can see a lot of air-to-air battles. I don't know, maybe there was also something small off. Some zeros getting destroyed a lot of by flag. I think this is Pearl Harbor and a bunch of other aircraft. For me, mostly Buffalo slaughters over Singapore, I would say. But also a bunch of B-17s getting destroyed at Mindanao. But I can check this later. And yeah, other small equipment. But mostly destroyed, or many destroyed on the ground. I don't know why 35 on the ground. Oh, maybe. No, this is normally not 35. Okay. So out of my 77 lost airframes, I had 23 killed pilot, 14 wounded. So out of this 14 wounded, normally 10 to 12 will come back. So I lost maybe 25 pilots. That is okay. And there's some Hurricanes. They having some kills. Let's check where this was. This was here at Singapore. So maybe there was an air battle with a Buffalo, or I maybe skip it, and then there was some success for me because I get some kills here. Anyway, so maybe first finish the sinking ships. So for the Japanese, no ships sunk, lost, and for the Allies, you can see this is all true, of course, because they're my own ships. So I lost the AV, I can change it, this is Manila, a little in Hong Kong, but mostly it's all Manila. And I lost these 3 fleet submarines and 2 short range submarines. Yeah, it's not good, but I would say acceptable. So this first, I think, for this. And you can also see that there's no Japanese sunk ship reported. And I saw no action, nothing else. So I lost 15 ships. Air loss points. So yeah. You can also see that 60 to 94. So the 77, there is this, you get, I think, double points for 4 engine bombers. So it's, I think, 1 and 2 engine bombers, well, aircraft always give you 1 point, but the 3 engine and 4 engine give you double points, so 2 points. This is why out of 77 lost airframes are 94 points. Good, yeah, I would say that is okay. I start here at, I always start in China because I always play Japan, so I always play here and start simply from China. But in China there's not much to say. Again, we play with stacking limits, you can see here. And I move a lot of stuff around. At the end, of course, my idea is to simply hold these 2 bases as long as possible and to block advance in the center. And I also need to, of course, try to block Xi'an. So this is normally the most important. Block Xi'an so that Sichuan is safe. Try to block the center that you get here, the local supplies, because you not only produce here with your local industry supplies, what is always critical for China, you also get this bonus supplies depending on the base, here plus 20. Changsha will produce plus 160 per turn. So some bases, not every Chinese base can produce this. Wenzhou is also one of this with 80, so you could, these bases can really supply your local armies, at least to some extent, to some point. So I move a lot, and this was allowed for me because China is already in the war for many years, so why you cannot move the Chinese units. But the problem is I have, of course, not enough supplies, and my air force is not even normally by name something. Good, I will of course set up all of this, so this is my long turn, and I have to move. The question is always with the Allied, how do you much invest in Burma? We will see. I must first see how aggressive is the play of the Japanese, and then I will react to it. I will simply prepare. I know what Japan can do, so I also know how to normally counter this. Often you play first the Allies and then you jump to the Japanese. I make the more hardcore Japan first and later Allies. The question is how these ships move. So I have here Dutch fleet submarines in position. I can now normally try to intercept. We will see if it's now a Kuantan strike or a Mersing strike. If I can at least there was no surprise here. Could be also, we had of course a house rule, no Mersing day one strike. That is simply breaking all of the war in Malaya. So we say next turn there should be or could be a landing in Mersing. Good, there was a landing at Miri, not that I really can do anything with this. And here you can see the attack was successful. If we go for the combat report, we can see that, if I go back, here was the attack, and in the replay it was I think 10-9, 1-1, but here it was a clear victory of 7-1, and he takes the base and destroy my B-17s on the ground, and force my units out of the hex. I simply, that is, yeah, you can also see that there was an interaction, I think, with the submarine. There's some other stuff, but what you can do, it is like it is. Most looks the same. I don't really see too much difference. I think the biggest difference is really only this stuff here. All others is so minor that I don't really, and I cannot change it. The Japanese playthrough is always a true one, and the Allies get a copy of it, and sometimes it's not 1-1. What I can show or discuss is of course the damage. So this base is of course impossible to hold if this kind of enemy forces are landing here. With a little luck, I maybe have luck, but only pure luck. So let's check Manila. The base itself is not really too damaged, but it was more port strike than airfield strike. What I have left, let's say, what is the most important for the Allies early on is maybe submarines. So you can see I have here 1, 2, 3, 4 fully ready submarines, and 4 more is okay, and the rest is heavily damaged. No, nothing is in the ship. So, and if I will check it for other equipment, PT boats, PG boats, AMs, some tankers are okay, some APs are okay, but they're all damaged. With this kind of strong focus on Manila port, I would say that is normal. Clarkfield, here is much more damage on the ground, so the airfield is completely broken, so I cannot really repair here much with this kind of service damage, so I will maybe call all of this aircraft back to Manila and try to repair the units there. You have here a lot of B-17s and P-40s. Now I can set them up new. What was good, there was no attack on Aiba. So I have here a lot of P-40Es. They are now ready to transfer. I can send them to Manila and try to... I cannot cap 2 bases, so I only can try to hold Manila now that there's no more damage happening against the port. And then I can try to fix the submarines in emergency 1 week or maybe something like this. And then they're maybe ready to go. We will see. So I have here this third carrier fleet is here. And here's a heavy cruiser formation, I would say. Here's Nagato, Mutsu, and maybe more. So heavy cruiser, so surface fleets and invasion fleet. I stand down most of my ships. I simply say they are more safe in a port, and then I know where's the enemy and what is where, and then I can react much better. I also stand down my British fleet, so my battle cruisers are here. So no damage against Prince of Wales and Repulse. What I will not do is simply by game reasons, I will not use them to intercept here at Mersing. this is too, it can be a defeat for me, then everything would be fine. But if I defeat here the Japanese fleet at Mersing, or at least cripple them, that can break the game so fast, so early on. I don't want it. I don't even want to try it. Of course, it would be the most reasoned strategy, but I will simply hold back. I will, if there's an invasion, I will use submarines and maybe air fleet and torpedo boats and something like this, but I will not use my two capital ships. I will go for maybe back to Surabaya and maybe fight here. If I fight here, I would say that is up to the Japanese player if he can react to it. But if I fight here, without a half-decent successful invasion of Malaya, the most Japanese players would maybe call it a day. And after I did now December 8th Allied setup and it cost me days, I don't want to do this again. I mean, of course, Japanese setup for 7th of December is more or less the same, but here is something new, because this is another scenario. You get this light carrier cruiser. So it is a light cruiser carrier something. I would simply call it a light carrier, like what it is. So it is more like a can give air cover for fighter escort, something like this. I don't really, there's no action here, so there was also no action at Rabaul, and there's nothing else here at Australia so far. So I don't see anything here. You have one carrier here in the source, there's Lexington, it simply starts here in the source. And the other carrier is here. I think this is like in scenario 1, there's Enterprise. What I will try is, I try to save, because there was no invasion at Wake at day 1, 7th December. So I will try to save this Wildcats. I cannot save maybe the base, but I can maybe save the aircraft. I can make a calculation so I can go with full speed next turn here, and then I can fly to my carriers and then I disappear. I had here only a bunch of submarines I was able to walk around, but I was not sure where, if there's even an airstrike on Pearl Harbor, so I not wait here, I simply go directly to Midway, but now I know where's the enemy carrier, so I can try to catch maybe the carriers, and with a little luck I can damage them, but Mark 14s, I mean, don't expect too much. I talk, no, and I think, so maybe first, because this Pearl Harbor could be the last one. So at Singapore there's nothing else, there's only a damage AP, a CL and a destroyer, okay. And here, no, there was nothing, no. And yeah, because this is other scenario, you start with some other equipment. You have here, I mean, Hurricane 1s are not really useful. But you have Hurricane 2Bs in Singapore, I think a bunch, 30-40 airframes. So you have a chance to do something. But if it's enough, I don't know. Good. I think this is enough about Philippines. So the landing here in the north, this is really more traditional. I will try to fall back to Clarkfield, and I will also try to hold Manila. And because there's no landing in the source, it allows me maybe to call back all of the divisions, rebuild them in Manila 1 week, and then I can go to Clarkfield. I'm not sure if this is also like in scenario 1, but you can see that Clarkfield has nearly no engineer support. So it is very hard to build up here any fort level. I have some engineers in Manila, but also only 18. Maybe the scenario changes that you cannot dig in too quickly. Good, and yeah, there are biggest action, at least more damage, was maybe at Pearl Harbor. The airfield is completely damaged, the port only little, so I guess that the main attack was maybe against the airfield. You can see that there are some battleships damage, but not too many. And 3 more are here. And so battleships are not really damaged, and I lost no battleship up to now. And if I call out the battleships, then you can see that I have better like this. So I have a destroyer, heavy cruiser, cruiser mine layer, and that was all. So there was not really a lot of airstrike power against the port. I guess this was really like 80% against the airfield. So because of my airfield is the from 319 aircraft are 170 ready and 149 are damaged. So you can see what is not destroyed is 50% damage, or at least 40% damage. So there's not much left for me to use. So this is maybe an option that if you want to make a second strike on Pearl Harbor. But I make many calculations and test a lot, and I simply find no real reason to do a second strike on Pearl Harbor. It is not worth it. But we will see. That is not my part. I am now only allied player and must react. Good. Anything else? Not sure. But we will see how this play out. Good, if you have other questions, let me know. And I have now 3 games ongoing, twice Japan and once Allies. But this other second Japanese play is just at the beginning, so I will wait that I get first some turns back. Because with Allies, I would say you don't have too many secrets, you simply only react with the Japanese player, but the Japanese player is really critical that you don't lose your surprise. Good, see you next time, take care, bye bye.